Hi guys, I'm back again today doing a review of the new Avengers film, Avengers Endgame. I have actually done reviews of all the Marvel films, and I'm going to post them over the next few weeks on onto my channel. But I'm skipping straight to this one, obviously because this is a film that's just come out and everyone wants to talk about it, and it's the most current one. So I will be posting all my older reviews of all the Marvel films up until now, but for now I'm just going to crack on with this one. So Avengers Endgame. In order to really properly talk about it, I'm going to go into spoilers. So what I will do is, to start off with, I'll just quickly tell you my overall thoughts of it, what I liked about it without any spoilers, and then I will go into spoilers, afterwards, and then also rant for an unspecified amount of time about the film. I don't like to put time on my videos because sometimes I have a lot to say, sometimes not so much, so we'll just see how it goes. So anyway, overall, this was a good movie. It wasn't a great movie, it wasn't a perfect movie, but it was good. And most importantly, it was a good, satisfying conclusion to the 10 or 11 years of Marvel films. So that's no small thing. It was entertaining. Obviously, if you're a Marvel fan, MCU fan, you will love this. If you're a casual fan, you'll probably love it as well. It's definitely a must-see film. I think everyone has got to see this movie, in the cinema, and it's going to be in the cinemas for ages, so definitely get to see it. And again, if you can avoid spoilers, then that's helpful, but I still think that even if you did know the spoilers, or found out some of the spoilers, there's nothing like experiencing it. I tend to think that we put a bit too much of an emphasis on spoilers nowadays, where it's like, if a tiny thing is spoiled, it sort of ruins the whole experience, and I don't really think that's actually true. Yeah, it might ruin a bit of a surprise for you, but at the same time, it's the actual way that those things come about and what you feel when you're watching it that is really what has the impact, rather than just simply knowing it, which is why when we rewatch a lot of our favourite films, we already know what's going to happen, but those moments still stick with us. So if it has been spoiled for you, it doesn't mean don't go watch it. Still go watch it and see for yourself what you think. Overall, very good. I think it's a 9 out of 10. It's definitely up there with some of the best Marvel films. Not the absolute best, in my opinion, but it is very, very good. So now I'm going to talk about it, going into spoilers about what I didn't like about it in more specifics. I'm going to break down pretty much the whole film, and I'm also going to, like I say, rant for a specified amount of time about the movie. So if you want to stop watching and you don't want any spoilers, you can stop now. If you want to hear what my full in-depth spoilers of the whole film, then you can. So that's where I'm going to start now. So really, in order to properly put into context what I thought about this, I have to sort of give my overview on what the Marvel films are in general, what they mean to me, and what I think about them. I think for me, as you'll understand when you see my other Marvel reviews, the first phase of Marvel movies I pretty much adored, apart from maybe Iron Man 2, but I adored what they were trying to do and what was set up, and all the way up until Avengers, I think that they were very, very, very interesting movies. They had a lot of heart, and they were trying different things, and then when it culminated in Avengers, that was fantastic. It was a fantastic, because it was the first time you were seeing something like this all come together, and that first Avengers movie, I think, was the first time I watched it was super amazing and really, really fun, and I couldn't believe again what I was seeing on screen. As the films have gone on, though, they varied in quality between being good and being just okay, and then the odd one has been really, really great. But I don't feel that every single one of them has been great. I think a lot of them have felt kind of lazy, quite safe. Again, when you see the reviews, you'll be able to understand which specific ones I'm talking about there. And a couple of them have been downright crap, to be honest with you. But most of them have on a decent level. They've managed to maintain a consistent quality. And where they've done well is in terms of the characters. They've kept the characters foremost in the films, and that's what is really good about all the Marvel films, including this one. So the characters themselves have good interactions with each other. They feel like, they're interesting characters and people. The problem I have with Marvel as it's gone on, and it came to light in this film again, which was a bit unfortunate, because I felt that for me, Infinity War, I absolutely loved Infinity War. For me, that was a 10 out of 10. And it was a 10 out of 10 because, to me, it addressed a lot of the long-standing problems that had sort of crept in over the Marvel movies over the last so many years, which is, villains without any threat level, a general lack of threat and tension and stakes in the actual action scenes, where you just have a lot of CGI stuff happening and it doesn't really feel like anything's at stake. Overuse of comedy that sort of blunts and kind of throws off what could be quite serious moments. There's been the odd film where they got the balance of comedy and serious moments exactly right, like Winter Soldier, but then they've also lapsed back into stuff like Age of Ultron that was just all over the place. So it's been a mixed bag of that for me. Now, I understand that these films are not really meant to be watched more than once, and also maybe I'm not the target demographic for many more either. So I can understand that a lot of people feel differently. A lot of people absolutely love these movies, and so for anyone who really loves the other films, they will love this movie. Probably they will think it's like one of the best films of all time. Because again, when you're into it and you're a big fan of something, I would never knock anyone for being a huge fan of anything. I think we need more positivity and less cynicism in the world. So if you saw this film and you thought it was like the best film you'd ever seen, then I'd think that's great. You know, I think people having an overwhelmingly positive experience is always a good thing. And I don't want to pour water on people's views if that's what they had, even if it's a completely different view to mine. Because overall, I think positivity is good and we need more of it. So I'm just going to sort of say why, for me, it wasn't quite that, although still very, very good. And I would equate it to Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi with Star Wars. I think Empire Strikes Back is the better film. It's the build-up. It has darker moments. It does unexpected things. And it's so solid. Like, every scene of Empire is perfect. There's no scene in there that you would take away. There's no scene that it needs. The same thing for me with Infinity War. I felt, despite the runtime, despite the numerous amounts of characters, all the scenes felt required and necessary, and there was a sort of pervading dread over the whole film, because it was all going the way you didn't expect it would. Again, just like with Empire, it builds up a certain expectation of where you think it's going to go, and it completely knocks it for six. And that's what I thought was so good. Now, I think that this one, Endgame, is more like Return of the Jedi, in that it has some very, very good moments, very good aspects of things, like, in Return of the Jedi, it's things like Jabba's palace, and the big end fight in space, and the confrontation with the Emperor. Very, very good, strong things that the films have been building up to and pay off very, very nicely. It's a wonderful payoff for the characters in Return of the Jedi. But you also have some moments of just sort of cheap family laughs, cheap comedy that just feels a bit not that great. Like the Ewoks are kind of meh. Again, they're good when you're a kid, but when you watch it, you're a bit older, like the Ewoks kind of suck a little bit. And certain parts of the film do look a little bit cheap. It does look a bit like a TV movie in places, Return of the Jedi, for some reason. So it doesn't feel quite cinematic as the other two, I think I'd say. So there are a few little things with Return of the Jedi that just make it not quite as good as Empire, but it's still a very, very satisfying closing to that trilogy, which they then ruined with Force Awakens, but we're not going to go there. But so I think that this is like that. It's got some very, very good moments. And like I say, the sticking the landing, as they like to call it nowadays, I don't know why this has suddenly become a thing, is very important, especially for a film like this that's built up all these films over all these years. But I also feel it's a little bit disingenuous, because it's not quite like with Star Wars, there's an argument to say that this, Revenge of the Sith was the last film in a 30-year journey, because they all carried on. They were all about Skywalkers. Even if it switched different characters, the whole story was Anakin to Vader. That's the whole arc. All those 6 films were connected by the Anakin to Vader thing, and they were clearly episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. To kind of say that this is the culmination of 11 years of films is technically true, but not really if you look at the structure of it. If you actually look at what you need to know, what you really need to know to really understand the movie, it's basically about 4 or 5 movies rather than 22. There are an awful lot of films that within the universe don't really need to be watched to watch this. Like, you don't really need to watch Ant-Man, you don't really need to watch Thor the Dark World, because you kind of get caught up on anything that was important for the Dark World gets recapped here, actually, so you really don't need to watch For the Dark World now. Even saying Guardians 2 isn't really relevant, even though Guardians 2 is brilliant, I absolutely love it. Weirdly enough, the films are slightly more off from the main storyline, like the Guardians movies, I kind of prefer to the ones that are all sort of in line with this. Like Age of Ultron, unfortunately, you need to have watched, which wasn't very good. Captain America Civil War was kind of mixed bag for me as well. I think Civil War and this are very similar in that they try for certain things that they don't quite manage to pull off, because there's a mismatch sometimes in these movies between wanting to make merry, entertaining, and very fun and comedic, and then also wanting to do something, like I say, a bit more serious. And for me, they never get the balance quite right, apart from with Infinity War. Like I say, the balance of Infinity War was absolutely spot on, and that's why I loved it so much. I thought, really, they did get the balance right. There was some comedy in it where it needed to have it, but also there was an awful lot of drama, and there was a lot of stakes to it. And like when the fights were happening, you really felt the threat level. With this, I didn't really feel that threat level all the way through, like with Infinity War, and it's partly by the design of the film, but it's kind of like, whereas Infinity War was a whole film of the good guys constantly losing, this is a whole film of the good guys constantly winning, and I think really it needed to have a little bit more something going wrong for them. I mean, there was a couple of moments where things did go wrong a little bit, but not as much. I just didn't feel like the big stakes were really like intense with this film, like they were with Infinity War. So that's one reason why I didn't like some parts of it. And again, the overuse of comedy in places here felt a bit annoying, considering how well they'd done it with the previous film. And again, because the two films are connected, it's difficult not to kind of watch this and kind of think what happened. I honestly think for the first hour of this, I was getting a Matrix Revolutions vibe. I was like, especially the first couple of scenes I'm going to break down, I was really not happy with some of the stuff that happened, and I was like really sinking against my chair thinking, this is not good. So I'm gonna break it down for you. The opening scene, I will say, the first scene with Hawkeye, I thought was excellent. I did think that was really good. He did a really good job introducing it, again, with a nice small character moment. And it was, you really felt, again, it got, in that scene, it got the tension and the fear that you would feel with your family just disappearing. Exactly right. There was no comedy, there was no stupid little one-liners. It was really a serious scene, and it was a really, really good scene. And Jeremy Renner, even though I've criticised him heavily in these Marvel films for being very emotionless and having just one expression the whole time, this is probably his best. Like, he did actually do quite well in some of the dramatic scenes here, which I was glad about, because obviously he's been in films like Wind River, where I've seen him be really good now, so I know he can do it. So yeah, I think that was a good scene. But then the very next scene was kind of everything that I didn't want to see in this film, which was like just a comedy scene of Tony Stark sat playing this little game, flipping a bit of paper with Nebula, and people in the audience were laughing, but I just was like, really? You're going to start a film follow a scene like that with a scene like this? It feels really like an out of place comedy moment. And again, this is what the problem was all the way through this movie, was even though they managed to get the balance of comedy and the drama right in the last one, the balance here was just all over the place in certain parts. And I just thought, okay, so it really takes away from the drama of the situation they're in. I mean, they're in a situation where it's basically life or death. They're chugging along on the last bit of fuel or whatever, and you want to feel like they're nearly on the verge of death. Like, that's what, when he's talking into the armor and he's saying the little monologue into the suit, this does pay off nicely at the end, as I'll get into, but I just sort of felt it didn't feel as good as it did even when I watched it on the trailer, because the tone had just suddenly changed. It changed this stupid comedy tone, and then you were going back to it being dead serious and heartfelt, and I was like, the quick change there doesn't really work. You need to just start it with him doing the monologue into the suit. I don't know why we needed that scene with him and Nebula, like flipping the paper. It's a completely pointless scene. It should have been a deleted scene, in my opinion. It didn't need to be there at all. And then, so then he's saying the thing to Pepper, which is good. But if you want to show a scene of the two of them together, it should be something that reflects the desperation of a situation. Like, maybe if they're playing cards or something, and he's really beaten down, and he's really he doesn't have the stereotypical Tony Stark wit. He's really sort of exhausted, and it would set the scene really nicely to show, yeah, this is a really desperate situation you're in, because Tony Stark's no longer cracking jokes, and Nebula, who's a serious character anyway. But the fact that, again, you open and Tony Stark's still just throwing out the witticisms and saying, oh, this is how you play it, and you do it like this, and you flick your fingers like that. I just thought, no, that's not good. I don't think that was the right call. And then right after that scene where he he is in the ship and he's saying, we've got 48 hours of oxygen left. Right after, the minute he finishes that monologue, Deus Ex Machina herself, Captain Marvel, just shows up. How she knows to show up, I don't know. How she had any idea where they were, I don't know. But she just suddenly shows up out of nowhere and rescues them. And I kind of felt like, if you're going to do that, why even bother with this whole setup? Why bother with it? Again, it kind of makes sense at the end, but it felt really cheap. I was like, this film felt, because you're trying to pack in so much into one film and one movie, a lot of these scenes that you wanted to feel the defeat, you wanted to feel the desperation of the aftermath of what happened. I never felt that. I know other people say they did, and they felt that the first hour of this was just really good character building, and it was really slow, and it wasn't like a normal Avengers film. I don't agree. For me, it was just like a normal Avengers film, in that it was still throwing in jokes. It was still not able to keep in character with what characters were going through. And again, it was a mishmash of these scenes, and I think it's part of the problem is the Russos were always trying to make it more dramatic and a bit more grounded, but there's always this tension with trying to also make it really fun because it's a Marvel film and there's kids there and you want to keep it. And this film, again, the balance was all over the place with those scenes. It isn't all over the place in Infinity War, but it was, again, I felt the same thing with Civil War. Like, in Civil War, you had some scenes where it was like, it was trying to make you feel bad for all the destruction the Avengers caused. And then in other scenes, you had a big scene with like all these cars thrown everywhere, and you were suddenly meant to sit and clap and be like, yay, all this. It was a really weird, not well-balanced thing, quite schizophrenic, and this was the same. And it's just a shame because they did seem, in my opinion, to have solved it with Infinity War, and I think that the way that you solve it is just to keep the comedy localized around specific characters, where it's in character for them to do that, not around characters where it's not. And admittedly, yeah, normally it is in Tony Stark's character to be throwing out jokes and to be doing that. But given what he's just been through, given that he's this emaciated character who's on his last, he's on his last ebb basically, he shouldn't be sat around flicking paper and having jokes. It's not really what you want to see. It's not what I want to see. And there are moments of this where Downey Jr. in the very next scene plays it so well. Like, there's a scene right after this where he gets off the ship and he's having a go at Steve, and he's saying, like, again, it is actually a good callback to Age of Ultron, about the suit of armor around the world, and he's saying to Steve, like, you said we would live together and die together, and you just basically abandoned us, and he's still pissed at him for, like, what happened with Civil War and that the Avengers split up. Although really, again, thinking about it later, he's kind of being a dick because right at the end of Civil War, Captain America literally sent him a letter where he said, I wish we had agreed. I think you have to go your own way. I totally understand where you're coming from. If you ever need me, call me. He gave him a phone and said, if you ever need me, call me. And it was Tony's choice not to call him for however many long years. And even when Thanos was on his way, he was still like, oh, me and Steve have fallen out. It took Banner to be like, Tony, you need to call him. And then even then, he didn't call him. It was Banner that actually called him. So really, Tony doesn't have a right to be pissed off at Steve because Steve did. Like, if Steve had never done that, and never given him any choice and had just been like, right, we're done, we're through, and gone his own way. But he gave him every choice to contact him. So I don't know why he's so pissed off at him. It's a bit unfair. And Steve doesn't bring it up either. He isn't like, well, I did write you a letter, I did give you a phone, you have had 2 years to get in touch with me. Like, what gives, man? Like, I did extend the olive branch, it's your choice to accept it or not, and he chose not to, and then he's blaming him for him not accepting it. I don't know. It was a bit weird. But I will say this for it. I do like how the Russos managed to tie in older things from other movies to make this continuity feel more like a better continuity than some of the other directors do. Shane Black with Iron Man 3. It's just like, Iron Man 3 was just totally off the books and just a completely one-off standalone. It had nothing to do with any of the movies, really. It didn't, in terms of the other Iron Man films. It's sort of tangentially linked into Avengers, but not in any real deep sense. So yeah, I kind of like that, but the acting from Downey Jr. there though was phenomenal, and I will say that I liked how thin he looked, how wasted he looked. Like, I don't know how he did that, whether it was CG or whether he actually got into, I don't know, but it did look really good, and I was like, well, there's some potential here. there was always potential going in these scenes at the start, and then it just felt a bit underwhelming to then have something else come in that just sort of threw it off a little bit, you know. But that was good. That was really good. That scene with him and Cap saying that. So I like that. But then, of course, you have Captain Marvel come in and like, nah, I'm not a fan. I really don't like her in these movies. She doesn't like. What's good about the other Avengers is they all have banter and play off each other, and that really comes across as authentic. That's one thing that is true of all the films, even the really poor ones or the not so good ones like Age of Ultron. You still have really good moments like the after party scene where they're all sort of hanging out and chatting, and those are some really good moments. There's definitely some really good bits of interactions with them. I feel with Captain Marvel, I mean, maybe because she's a new kid on the block, maybe it's because this is the first time she ever shot scenes with her, so she's a bit awkward, but it was a big Ghostbusters 2016. It was like, there's fake chemistry there, but there's not real chemistry there. Like, a lot of her shots is just her saying a line, and it feels like that could even have been shot as a cutaway, and the other actors weren't even there, because she doesn't seem like she's playing off anyone. She just seems like she's just saying her lines to a blue screen like this. Oh, where's Fury? Or where's this or where's that? Like, and they try to get Thor to try to come in and go, oh, I like her. It's like you're trying too hard to make the characters like her for no reason, really. Like, one of the great things about the other Avengers is they all gave each other a lot of shit at the start. Like, when you actually see the first Avengers film, a good portion of it is them, like, falling out, bitching at each other. Like, you know, it felt like with Captain Marvel, they weren't allowed to do that. They weren't allowed to sort of put her down or take the piss out of her or kind of be like, yeah, whatever, they sort of do it a little bit, but again, there's no back and forth with it. She just kind of goes, yeah, I'm going to go and kill Thanos. I'll see you guys later. She's very much just not interacting with the rest of them. And I suppose that's okay because she's not going to need to interact with the rest of them very much longer. But yeah, she's still a character that for me continues to be just meh. I don't think of her as having any particular characteristics other than being, you know, like extremely up her own arse, cocky, but not with the sense of, you know, I'm not getting the sense of heart from her like you have with some like Tony. Yeah, Tony has the cynicism, but he also has an underlying aspect where he really cares about people. Whereas with her, she just feels like one of those superficial people who like to crack wise, but actually is very, very... Again, she's a bit cynical, really. She doesn't feel to me like she has the heart of a hero. Feels like she's just got the sort of the swagger, but not the important parts. And this is like a lot of the Marvel films. They sort of... The characters sort of have got more away from their humanity and are more sort of just cardboard cutout characters in certain scenes at certain times. And again, the Russos have tried their best to bring that back down. And they do try with this film to do it. But it's also amidst some kind of weird bits of comedy, like I say, that just sort of go against it. Anyway, so she comes in, and that's kind of okay. And one thing I did think was, well, this is good. I was like, if she's going off to confront Thanos so early on, I was like, this is good, because it tells me she's not going to one-shot Thanos like we were worried. Everyone was sort of worried she was going to steal the glory from the characters, and she doesn't do that. They used her very well, actually. They used her quite sparingly and very well. And they even tried to explain kind of why she hasn't shown up for 20 years, or 10 years, however long it's been, when there's been all these other invasions and stuff. And so that was explained away quite well. Because one of the big plot holes is, why would Nick Fury not wait to call her till this, not like when the Battle of New York happened or when all the other stuff happened in the 15 other movies. So she does sort of wave that away. So it was kind of like, yeah, fair enough, that was okay. But I'm just, as her as a character and as a performance, I'm still not sold on it. I still think that she's not a good pick. I don't think she's an especially great character to start off with, but you can take not especially great characters and make something more out of them. I mean, I was never a huge fan of Captain America as a character, but I think that what Chris Evans did with him was amazing, and he's made him a favourite, and that's what he's brought to the character more than the character itself on the comic book page. So Brie Larson's totally capable of bringing something to Captain Marvel to make her less one-dimensional, and maybe in subsequent movies she will. So, you know, the jury's still out on her. Let's just see. She might warm up, but right now I'm not feeling it. But it was good she wasn't in it too much. Then they went to go get Thanos. Yeah, this was my second big problem. And I think this will be less of a problem when I rewatch it. But the first big problem was, again, that start. after the first scene. This thing with whatever Nebula and that, it was weird. The thing with Captain Marvel just coming out of nowhere and just randomly saving them just felt weird. Then this was the other thing that felt weird, is they go and take down Thanos, instantly just beat the crap out of him in like 2 seconds, and you're like, this is weird. And then Thor flipping cuts his head off, kills him, and it's followed up with a joke. And I just think that was the wrong tone. Like, I think that you could have had the exact same scene, would have played out brilliantly, but play it more serious. Like, when in the first Infinity War, he gets Thanos, and he's really serious, and he's proper pissed, because obviously all the stuff that happened to him, and what Thanos has done to him, he is like, you know, I told you you'd die for that, or I told you I'd kill you for that. And it's a really serious moment. Now, this should have been the same. This should have still been him, like, you know, chopping the dude's head off a moment, and then him like, you know, you told me to go for the head. The actual line is a good line, and it pays off, because obviously Thanos did say to him, you should have gone for the head. But it comes off as a sort of a waka moment where it's like, well, he did tell me to go for the head. It's almost like everyone laughs. And I just don't like it being played for comedy. I think when you're killing off a villain, especially Thanos, and especially in the situation he finds himself in, really he's a lot more diminished. He's basically just doing his own thing. I mean, I know that from the point of view of the characters, he's really evil and all the things he's done have been really bad. But again, if you take on board his point of view in the last film, which was he was just going to do this really important thing and then just retire, and basically just not do anything. Like, he wasn't currently a threat. And they're all pissed at him because he destroyed the Infinity Stones, so what he did couldn't be undone. But then, just to sort of kill a guy who is basically defenseless at this point, no matter what he has done previously, it's not going to bring anyone back. And it was a moment that should have been played for drama, and should have been played for serious, in a serious way, because someone's just been killed who basically wasn't a threat. It was basically didn't need to get killed. They could just have knocked the crap out of him and left him, but they killed him. And again, it speaks to this weird double standard where everyone has such a problem with Superman snapping General Zod's neck when he was doing it, when he was literally forced to do it out of self-defense to protect people. Here, there was no need to kill him, other than just for Thor to just feel better because he previously had not done, you know. And yeah, you totally understand him for doing it, but the way the moments played out, I didn't like. I really didn't like how he dealt with it. Killing a character shouldn't be done with a one-liner and a joke and a smile. It's no matter who it is. Killing is always a horrible thing. Even in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films that are really cheesy, when the villain dies, like when, you know, you get villains dying like Green Goblin, it's not a comedy moment when he dies. It's a sad, shit, he's dead. This is a guy who, you know, it's not played for comedy as much as, you know, other things are in the film played for comedy. So it's another case of this comedy not really working too well. So these were the two big problems I had. I was like, and then I was really worried because I was like, if that's how you've killed him off, please, like, don't do this. Because I had heard that he wasn't the only villain. I was going to bring a new villain, and I was like, if they're bringing just some other random villain now that's a main threat, then I'm going to be pissed. But I was also like, well, what else can he do? And then it cuts to 5 years later, and I really think that what they should have done in retrospect, even though I like the end of Infinity War, I actually would have preferred it if this had been sort of like they'd added the end of this, although changed some of those stupid bits with, like, you know, but like even to have like those scenes at the end of the last film would have worked better, because to have Tony rescued by Captain Marvel at the end of Infinity War would have given that little tiny bit of hope. And then to have that crushed again at the very end, to realise that there is no way they could undo it. Thanos gets killed by Thor, but like I say, play the scene as serious rather than comedy. And it ends on an even darker note, because then you're like, well, they can't undo it. They really can't undo it. And just end with them all like, what the fuck are we going to do now? Because he's destroyed the stones. And that's how you should have ended it. I think it was weird pacing to put it at the start of this movie. I think it was way better to have added that as the coda at the end that would have really led into the start of this film being able to start, because the reason why I think that would have made more sense is Avengers Infinity War was very long, but it was about 2 hours and 45 minutes. An extra 15 minutes to bring it up to 3 hours, this being also 3 hours, would have given you an extra 20 minutes here to spend more time with the characters post all the stuff that had happened. Like, it felt to me like the movie had started 3 separate times with Endgame. Like, it started with the thing with Hawkeye, and then it jumped from that to the thing with Tony in the ship with Nebula, and then it jumped from that to the Avengers sort of getting together and going to get Thanos, and then it jumped to Steve like in doing his counselling thing, which was which if the movie just started that way, even after the Hawkeye bit, that would have been really, really good, and I would have absolutely had a different opinion. I've said they started it exactly right. I think one of the things about Infinity War is that beginning, the start of Infinity War was absolutely spot on. How they paced the scene, how they introduced Thanos, how they did that whole first scene was genius. It was, to me, just a perfect scene. Perfectly acted, perfectly directed, perfectly scripted. And it really set the tone that then lasted through the whole movie. It basically, like the first few minutes of the film are so important for setting up the rest of it. And with this, because it was so all over the place at the start, it set an expectation for me that was more like, this is going to be a bit of a Matrix Revolutions rather than a really good Return of the King style thing. It just didn't, the opening scene of Return of the King, again, it's a brilliant scene to bring you into it, where you show the backstory of Smeagol and how he first gets the ring, and it all works really well as bringing you into it. And then obviously you cut into the story where you're at that point. This was just not a good beginning. I don't care what other people say this is a flawless masterpiece. This start was not good. It was, in my opinion, not a good beginning. And a few tweaks and changes could have made it much better. So then we get into the 5 years later. And again, this whole first bit has potential to be very, very good. But really, I feel like, again, this need to go towards comedy really squandered the potential for showing the really serious fallout. And also, like, you didn't see any of the world. You saw a little scene at the start with Steve talking to 4 other people in that room. But, like, where was the impact on the rest of the world? I mean, as much as people hate the DCEU, they show the impact of Superman being gone a lot better and how it affects everybody, not just the heroes. What this is just like, yeah, we understand how it affects the heroes, and we understand a tiny bit how it affects the world, but not really. Doesn't really go there. It doesn't really show us anything of the world. It's just this hero, this hero, this hero. And again, this is what the Marvel films have sort of left behind, is the world has felt, weirdly enough, more and more small, because we're spending less and less time dealing with the thing around the heroes, like what is set up around the heroes, like what is the world. Like, even with Black Panther, I love it, but when you think about Wakanda and how it functions, it really doesn't make a blind bit of sense. Like, the world building is not very good. People think the world building in these Marvel films is very good, but actually it really isn't very good when you think about it. Like, Wakanda makes no sense. I'm not going to get into Black Panther now, because the main story in Black Panther is great, and I think Marvel films do the character moments so well that they're very good at not making you think about those other things, because you're so into the characters, and the characters are really fun. I don't care about it, but it's the kind of thing that on some frequent viewings, and when you watch it a few more times, you really think about it, like, it doesn't really quite hold up. And it's true, all films have plot holes and issues, so it's individual for each person. But all I'm saying is, like, I feel they missed a trick here to really explore the consequences on a global scale of how it affected people. And I didn't feel that. I felt that, like, I understood how it affected the specific characters, and the best of which was what they did with Black Widow. Now, they did a good job with Black Widow of showing her 5 years later, but everything else was just really, really quick. Like, yeah, the Hawkeye thing was good, but it was just very, very quick. It was like some exposition basically saying, oh, he's turned bad now, he's killing people and he's beating up people. That fight scene he had was great. I'll be honest, I thought that was really cool, and I'm surprised that they let in a PG-13 movie actually showed him, like, impaling this dude. I was like, that's good. But again, because it has so much to get through, it skips over these things really quick. And again, it's not bad, all entirely bad. It's just a mishmash of different things that are good and bad. Like, I loved, again, getting Tony back into the fold. Basically, what they did with Tony in this film was absolutely fantastic, and there wasn't a problem with any of his bits. Apart from that stupid thing at the start, like I said, with flicking paper, that's a minor thing. Really, he was really, and obviously as we get to the end, it paid off really well. So I think that's why so many people love it, because for most people, you know, Tony is the heart of it, and it did all start with him. So absolutely, this is where the end resolution is brilliant, you know. But at this point, again, I liked how they had to go and re-enlist him. I liked how he had a family, had a kid. Again, the introduction of a kid at the first was a little bit eye-rolling to me. I was like, oh, this is going to be another annoying little cute kid. But no, she was actually pretty good. And it did mean he had these real stakes going into it. You know, he had something to lose. He had basically the family he'd always wanted, he had. And that was a really good scene, actually, where he's basically saying to him, well, I can't afford to jeopardise what I have for what could be. And you really understand him. You're really like, yeah, he can't. Like, I was watching that going, you know, he can't, like, risk, because he's always wanted his family. He's always, and again, this is a really good conclusion of his character. He's always wanted to kind of, at some point, get out of being a hero and settle down. This is what he wanted in Age of Ultron. So it tied that in well. It's what he's wanted, you know, even from Iron Man 3, where he destroyed all his suits. It tied that in quite well. Actually, his story, even though I used to be quite critical of it, with what the Russo brothers have done in the last 3 movies, from Civil War to, you know, Infinity War and this, they've really, really given him a great character arc. So when we got to that scene, I really enjoyed that. I thought, yeah, that's a really good point. Like, why would you get involved? Why would you risk it? And then again, there's a good scene with Pepper, which, you know, one of the things that I think is a shame is we haven't had any more standalone Iron Man films, because really, even though Iron Man 3, I hated it at the time, but I like it a little bit more now. Like, a lot of Tony's major story with Pepper, it's all happened off screen. Like, when they got together, when they proposed, you know, they broke up, they got married, like, all that stuff's just been skipped over. And again, that isn't always a problem. But it's a bit of a shame, because I just feel like maybe one more movie, like an Iron Man 4 at some point in the other 15 movies I had since Iron Man 3, would have been good just to see some of this stuff, you know. But in any case, we didn't see it. But yeah, it was good to have the scene with him and Pepper, because they haven't had really a decent, like, proper emotional scene since, obviously, the beginning of Infinity War was a little one, but not really since Iron Man 2. So, or Iron Man 3, sorry. What am I about? Yeah, since Iron Man 3. So I actually, even though I'm not a big fan of Pepper Potts in the past, and sometimes, I actually like what we did with her here in that scene where she says to him, you know, you could go to bed, but would you really rest? That was really good, because she's always, as well, on her side, she's always not wanted him to do the hero stuff. She's always been the person, this is why I've had an issue with her, is she was always kind of like, oh, very selfish, and just like, oh, well, what about me? You need to be here for me. I don't care about you saving the rest of the universe. You need to be here for me. Which makes no sense, because it's like, well, if he doesn't save the universe, you're not going to be around anyway. And most people would understand that, but for some reason she doesn't really understand it. Like in Infinity War, he's going out into space, she's like, Tony, you get back here right now. It's like, well, who else is going to take on Thanos? You know, like, it's not like you're going to go and do it. So that kind of annoyed me. But here I like what we did with it, because she really understood that he can't just stop. He can't, he has to help people. And again, this is the true heart of a hero that he has. He's sort of always had. And she's always kind of been a little bit like, yeah, but what about me? And this time she wasn't. This time she was, for the first time, you know, she had everything she wanted, and she's had everything she wanted for 5 years. She was like, you've got to do this. You've got to help these guys out. So he did, and that was good. What I didn't so much like was Ant-Man coming back was actually good. I've been a bit critical of Ant-Man in the past and felt that he was slightly. I've always said, well, what's the point of Ant-Man in these movies? Why do you really need him? He did justify his presence here. He actually had a good, integral part of the plot. And also, of all the people who were chucking out the comedy, Paul Rudd's great at the comedy. I will say he's always a really funny guy. And in some of the other movies I felt, especially in Civil War, he was a little bit robotic. Like, he just sort of showed up and said the odd line and didn't really give a crap. He was a little bit more like what Brie Larson is in this. Like in Civil War, he just shows up and goes, oh, I'm going to do something that's going to make me a criminal again after I spent a whole movie trying to be decriminalised. Okay. And that made no sense for his character at all, when considering he had a daughter. But they did address that a bit in Ant-Man and the Wasp. But still, it felt like a really weird, out of left field decision for his character to make. and he really didn't seem to care or have much invested in joining up, really, other than just to kind of be like, wow, it's Captain America. But again, he had some funny remarks about, Captain America's ass and stuff like that. It was good. His comedy was on point. And where he's just like, Back to the Future was a lot of bullshit. That was really funny. I really like that bit. Even though, you've got that like pop culture referencing. But Marvel's always had that. I'm not bothered about that. So yeah, like with him, with the comedy, it worked. What I didn't much like was what we did with Thor and the Hulk. Like, since, weirdly enough, I'm keep criticising Age of Ultron, but actually one of the things I did like about Age of Ultron was how they handled the Hulk as a character. Like, the romance of him and Natasha was a bit weird, but I liked how he was in the film. Like, he was, at the end he had a genuinely sad ending. And since then, even though I like Thor Ragnarok, they kind of gone with this really hard comedy with Bruce Banner and the Hulk. Like, they're so worried that they can't do something dramatic with it. When it's ripe for drama, they keep playing him for laughs all the time. Like, even Infinity War, where, the Hulk had disappeared and gone. Like, the opening scene was brilliant, but then later on, you've got stupid scenes where he's there slapping himself in the face, going, come out, come out. And I was like, what? It's really dumb, that. Like, there should have been a genuine, serious aspect to it. And here, again, that storyline never really got resolved. We never found out how he managed to bring the Hulk back, which I thought would have been a major part of this one. That's one of the things I thought was, crap, he's going to struggle in an Endgame to actually, even more so because of all the stuff that's happened. Like, maybe I think to have gone with the whole impotent thing they were playing on in Infinity War was played for a joke. I would have really committed to that in Endgame and have him a bit like Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2, where he literally can't get it on anymore. And then at a critical moment, he came back as the Hulk. That would have worked better for me than what they did with him, where they just made him the Hulk and Banner at the same time. And again, just played it as a joke. Like, oh, he's the Hulk, but he's talking like Mark Ruffalo. And I was like, it was funny for a couple of minutes. And then the joke got old really quick. And I just felt, if this is really his last hurrah, if you don't get Ruffalo back again, I don't think this was a good end note for him. This is the thing, it isn't a good ending for all the characters. I think it's a good ending for some of them. It's not a good ending for him. Admittedly, he can come back in other films, but you're sort of like, why wasn't the idea of this was like the closing chapter for all these original 6? And it sort of is for some and for others it's not. Now, I know for Hawkeye, I think it's good that it's not, because Hawkeye has had so little character and so little time in the movies. I wouldn't mind seeing a standalone film of his or seeing a standalone TV show of his and keeping him around. I think he's the one that you keep around. And there's potential with Hawkeye that's not been explored at all. Like, I think potentially he's a very interesting character, actually, and they started that here. So I think he's the one that you keep around if you're going to keep any of them. But really, with Hulk, and again, as he doesn't really have his own story, and because he's never really had a decent story or character arc since the first Avengers movie, or maybe the second Avengers, the first two, he's always just been played up for comedy since that. Again, one of the things I loved about Avengers 1 was what he was like and how pissed off he was with the events of that movie. And I know some of it was the thingy affecting him, but like the very first scene he had with with Natasha, Whedon did actually play the comedy and the drama really well. And that's one thing he could do. He could flip between the two, and then he was able to kind of manage that better than what most of the directors can do. So that wasn't a big fan of what we did. Also, not a big fan of what we did with the Hulk, not the Hulk Thor. Like, making him chubby, yeah, it was funny. I did laugh at it the first time, but again, it's just this joke that gets old really quick. It's like, the Captain America joke of, oh, he's out of time and he doesn't understand all the references. It's funny the first time you say it. It's funny the second time you say it. The 50th time, not so much. And again, just this over-reliance on comedy where it didn't need it. Like, he didn't need to be this humorous. He could have been this big-bellied, washed-up character that was just still, like, keeping the same tone. Like, why make him so comedy and make him kind of nerfed? Like, he gone back to what he was like in Ragnarok, which, again, is a fan-pleasing choice because everyone loved Ragnarok, including me. But after Infinity War, I much more preferred... One of the things I didn't like so much about Ragnarok was how much they changed his character to being a very flippant character. But there were still some moments where he was serious in Ragnarok, actually. But most of the time, he was very, very flippant. And yeah, Chris Hemsworth can do the comedy well. But I thought they made a very smart choice of him in Infinity War. Again, he did have some funny scenes with Star-Lord and that, but he also had some really good dramatic scenes that, for me, hark more back to what he was like in the original Thor. And this is really what you should have. I think you should have a balance of keeping in mind that he's a character who's lost everything. Like, of all the characters, I mean, we talk about, like, what Tony had to lose. Thor's already lost it all. I mean, he's still lost it all. He's lost, like, his... And again, it's another weird thing, because in some scenes, in some senses, they did call back to that quite well. But it was slap bang in the middle of a load of dumb jokes about him having a beer belly. So I'm like, well, why do that? Like, why do we need to just make it funny? Like, just keep it serious. Keep his character on the same tone he was in the last movie, where you got that perfect balance, and here it was not. And you know, no pun intended, but he kind of got his thunder stolen in the last act as well. Although that was pretty cool, so I'm not going to care too much. But so these are all the things that I wasn't a big fan of. The other thing was the quantum realm stuff was, and a lot of stuff in this was quickly brushed over. Like, we're going to do this and do this and do this and do this and do this. It was an awful lot of talking and explaining what we're going to do and then just rolling with it. We don't have any time to actually show it you properly. Like, I thought we'd at least get some shots in the quantum realm, or they would devise some way of travelling through it where we could see visually like what the quantum realm was, because that was what was teased in Ant-Man and the Wasp but we never really saw. And I was like, well, we'll get to see more of that in Infinity War, right? In Endgame, right? No, we didn't see any of the quantum realm. We just got this really quick technology that Tony Stark came up with overnight, how to go in and out of the thing. And I was just like, what? Why have we not got more of the quantum? Like, I know that that's not how they devised it, but the quantum realm stuff was just disappointing. I was like, it was just, we didn't even see it. When I realised, okay, we're not even going to go into the quantum realm, we're just going to see a quick shot of someone popping in and out from a time through a big wheel or whatever. I was like, okay, it's not very exciting though. I mean, as much as this movie takes the piss out of Back to the Future, one of the awesome things in Back to the Future is how they go back to the future, like in that car with the lightning and stuff. It's a really cool way to go travel in time. It's not just you jump into a portal and then you're somewhere else. And I was like, oh, that's just boring. Anyway, you know. But yeah, Tony just overnight figuring it out was, yeah, okay. But again, it just spoke to the lack of stakes. It spoke to the lack of real, genuine challenge that the heroes face. Like I say, every bit in this film, they did it easily. There was no challenge until the last act. But for 2/3 of it, there's no real challenge to them. There's no real threat. There's no real great big thing they have to overcome. The biggest thing is the thing with Tony, like having to, you know, win him over. Having to win over Thor as well, I guess. But it wasn't really feeling like there was a lot of stakes for me in the first two acts. And again, it's a little bit dumb in terms of the writing compared to others. Like, all this explaining of stuff, telling of stuff, like, it's much better to show things visually and hint at it than to always have characters constantly telling you what they're doing or why they're doing it. It's not needed. But there was a great thing they did at the end that really worked. Okay, so now we get into the time travel bits. We're all travelling through time. And again, this was a mixed bag of some good scenes and some scenes that were like, nah. Just a throw-in for a throw-in. Yeah, see the Battle of New York again. It's like a greatest hits. Which, you know, fine, okay, but it's a bit superficial. Like I say, with Back to the Future 2, because they had more time to actually commit to that idea and do it to the best of its ability, you really felt the tension ramping up for Marty McFly as things got progressively worse for him, and it became more and more difficult for you to... I remember watching Back to the Future 2 the first time thinking, how is he going to get this freaking almanac? Because each scene, he's nearly getting it, and he's like within, like, you know, grasping distance of it, and then something else happens, and you end up with this crazy build-up that you need to start slow and build that up. And this didn't have that. It was like, the time travel bits were all sort of like one scene where there was a problem, one scene where it was easily overcome, and then one scene when then they were sort of done, it was back. And like, if you're going to do a time travel thing, really go with it. Really make it more so we really feel like how the hell like a great example was what is Inception. In Inception, when you have it cutting between the three different action scenes, like the people going over in the van and then the people doing this in another place and the people, that's a masterful melding of three different action scenes that you know culminates in this amazing ending that's so impactful. And I was just like, well, I remember watching Inception, like losing my mind for the first time, how they did that and how they accomplished that ending. And here it wasn't as well done at all. It was just like, and again, because of keeping this very cute kind of, let's have a funny scene, let's show this character come back, let's have a callback to this. And some of the callbacks I like. The best bits I liked was where it added extra things that we didn't see before. So it was good seeing like Wendell Pierce like operating behind the scenes at the same time as other things were happening. You know, it was good seeing, actually even the conversation that Banner had with, was it Banner? No, who went to go see the Ancient One? I don't know. It was cool, like, seeing the Ancient One defending the Sanctum and that conversation that she had. I honestly can't remember who it was. Was it Banner she spoke to? Whoever it was, that bit was pretty good. But equally, there were just some bits, like, they were about to Thor the Dark World, and I was like, okay, so you just show Loki for 2 seconds. The fact that you didn't find some way to integrate Loki into these time travel bits in a much better way to make him a proper threat was a real missed opportunity. Like, he's the flipping trickster. He's the one guy who's smart enough to figure out, hold on a second, this and this isn't happening right. And he's the one guy who can change into different people. So he could have really, like, again, there's a scene where they think it's Loki, which is quite funny, where Captain America fights the other Captain America. That's quite good. But again, they really didn't capitalise on that. Like, he is the sort of the Biff Tannen kind of character who's like just fucking it up the whole time, and you're just like, oh, this guy is just doing my head in. But they could have made him that kind of a character, and he was perfect for it. And all this sort of gave him was like, yeah, he did sort of F up things a little bit, but then they never really went anywhere with it. He just sort of swerved out the film, and before I knew it, I was like, oh yeah, Loki's sort of, what happened? He time travelled and got something, and they never resolved that. Okay, so then the scene with going to the 1970s, and again, cool, we're in the 1970s, what are we going to do here? Well, it was kind of cool to see that little scene with Tony's dad. I think that's quite sweet. So yeah, some of it was, again, just a mixed bag. Like, some of it I liked, some of it I was just not sure about. I don't just like a cute reference because, well, it's a great reference because, fans are going to like it, and fans do like it, but it should be a bit more to it. This is the last Marvel film. Let's have a little bit more thought gone into it, like there was with, rather than just a fan service type moment. But we did the Soul Stone scene on Vormir with a Black Widow and Hawkeye. I just didn't feel anything. Like, I don't know why, because Black Widow did have good character development in this one, and when she went. Like I say, unfortunately, because of thinking of Infinity War, the way that scene with Gamora and Thanos played out in Infinity War was just done so much better. It was executed way, way, way better. And it's because, at that moment, it was a quick reveal that shocks you to thinking and realising that Thanos loved her. Like, that was such a great scene. And again, that was a great filmmaking, because he showed subtly in his performance all the way through, without saying to her that he loved her. You could see how much he cared for her. Like, even when you see the flashback of her as a little kid, and he's like turning her face away when all the people are getting killed. He gives her the dagger to distract her. He has a humanity about him that the most challenging thing about Thanos in Infinity War is that he does have a humanity, and you don't want to think he does. You want to think, he's a completely evil, horrible bastard, but he's not. He does have, like, there's a scene where she says, I always hated how you sat on that chair, and he like sits on the steps next to her. He's trying to actually, in that movie, through his acting and through the subtle things he does, showing that he cares about her. And when you watch it, it's a complete, like, it's almost like, even though it's a short scene, the I'm your father moment in Empire. Like, yeah, he does care about her. He really did. in his own sick, horrible, twisted way. He cared about her. And when he threw her down, he wasn't just emotionless and then fake, and then, you know, it could have been a thing, he pretended he was emotional and then he just chucked her down and he just laughed about it afterwards. He didn't care about her. But no, he did. He really cared about her. And it almost broke him to do that. Like, for the rest of the film, he's a different character. He's, you know, at the end when she says, like, what did it take? And he said everything. That's what he means. He means everything. She was like everything to him. And it took him everything to do this thing that was horrible, to throw her down and to get the Soul Stone. And again, he even has a moment where he agonises over it, where he's like, I rejected my destiny once before, and I can't do it again. And it speaks to this very, very horrible thing, which is why a lot of good people end up doing terrible things, is where they suddenly feel they don't have a choice, and that they have to do it because they're destined to do that thing. And so that takes their moral choice away, and they have to say no to their heart, no to their feelings, and think, no, this is what has to be done. And of course, it didn't have to be done. But he's convinced himself that it does. So, and he's convinced himself he has higher knowledge than everyone else. So when you think about how well done that scene was, how much drama there was to it, because it was doing several things. It was killing off a character. It was building up character to Thanos. It was a really, really interesting reveal. I just loved that bit so much that when we have a similar thing here, to kind of have the, you know, Clint and Natasha, like, fighting each other to the death for who's going to sacrifice himself, it should have been really emotional, and it should have been really intense, and I should have been like, man, these two have been, you know, friends for so long, and but because again we haven't had the lot of that, we've not experienced a real emotional moment between the two of them. We've not seen them in action. We've not like, this is really why they should have done a Black Widow standalone. They really should have done. Instead of Captain Marvel, they should have had Black Widow, because if we could have had a Black Widow movie, just one, where we'd seen her and Clint working together, and the things that get referenced in those movies where she's like, oh, this is like Budapest, and he's like, oh, you remember Budapest very differently. Like, yeah, that's a cool little thing, but why don't we see that? Why don't we see, like, some real scene where they started off as absolute enemies and then became friends? Like, because she even says, like, he was originally sent to kill me and he made a different call. Like, we could have had a whole movie that explored that little dialogue and expanded other things with Black Widow as well, but really shown how he showed this humanity to her when he could have killed her when he chose not to in her own film. And then that would have tied in here so well. It would have really given us a proper emotional hook that, or even if they could have injected, like they did with Infinity War, just a flashback scene, just one flashback scene somewhere of what happened with Black Widow and Hawkeye way back when he chose to spare her, that would have really, really helped this bit here, because all we got with Gamora to explain and understand was the stuff in Infinity War. We had little understanding she was the daughter of Thanos before that, but this was really the only film they had to do that in. And I always say, you don't need a whole film to set up a character, a whole film to set up a thing. You need a really, really well done scene and really good acting and really well written stuff to make things work. It doesn't need a whole movie. As I've just said, you know, I'm sort of going against what I just said a minute ago, but I think a whole Black Widow movie anyway, especially considering what I've done with her now, would have been great. I don't know why they didn't do it. This whole thing of she doesn't have any superpowers, she's not a superhero, I'm like, F off with that. Batman doesn't have any superpowers, it doesn't matter. Like, I would have loved a film where, you know, it was just a hardcore spy thriller like the Bourne movies with her as the main character. I would have been absolutely down for that, and maybe they will do that now, but it feels a little bit after the fact. If they get Johansson back, yeah, I guess, but it's weird when she's already been gone. I don't know. Anyway, so I just think that's why it didn't really work. Like, I wanted to feel emotional because Black Widow's been in these movies since Iron Man 2. But really, I think of all the characters, she's the one that they've screwed over the most. Like, she's a great actress, Scarlett Johansson. She's had some scenes and some bits of certain films where she's really brought it and she's been really good. But they've just given her so little to work with so much of the rest of the time. I mean, great in Winter Soldier. Again, Winter Soldier is one of the high points because of how good she was, how much character they gave her, how much stuff they gave her to do. It's like, yes, more of this.
And then with Age of Ultron, it was back to like little tiny bit. She had that weird love story thing that wasn't really great. But even in Age of Ultron, some of the better parts were her flashbacks to her, realising that she couldn't have children. All that stuff's been, put in the, like, let's forget about that. It's never been addressed or brought up since because of how controversial it was. But, like, yeah, you got a little callback to it here, I suppose, at the start. But really, I think of all the characters, she's been poorly served by these movies. The scenes they've given her were great. So don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that the scenes she wasn't in weren't good. They were good. But what I'm saying is she should have been given a lot more for the amount of time she's been in these movies, a lot more chances to shine, and much more of a focus. And like I say, her own film, like when we can get her own film for like Captain America, maybe not Phase 1. I understand Phase 1 not doing a Black Widow movie Phase 1, but Phase 2, Phase 3, definitely by Phase 3. If we've got a Captain Marvel movie, she should have been before Captain Marvel. I think that it would have been way better to have a Black Widow movie where Captain Marvel was, and then have Captain Marvel have a first standalone movie after the events of Endgame, and just have more time to bring in a character then, because you really didn't need some Captain Marvel to understand Endgame at all. But a Black Widow film before this would have been massively beneficial to giving that scene more weight. Anyway, that's my rant over. But yeah, she sacrifices herself. It's the right play because, as we know, Clint has a lot. As poorly served as Black Widow's been, at least she has had some scenes and some bits in some movies like Winter Soldier of good character development. Clint's had literally nothing. He's had so little in those movies. And like I say, for a long time, I'm very critical of Jeremy Renner, and I think he's really overacting and really bad in some of the movies. But with this one, we finally started to get something good with him, and it was good to keep him around. He showed much more depth than he's ever shown in any of the movies, so that was good. Like, people said that about Age of Ultron, like, oh yeah, Hawkeye's amazing. He wasn't really. That was a massive overstatement. He was marginally better than what he did in Avengers, but still not great. Here, he was actually good. I really liked what he did with him, and again, but also, not really addressing the fact that he has still killed all these people. He has still massacred and killed all these people, and he's now back to being a family man. I'm like, maybe they'll deal with that in the TV show. You can't deal with every single little tiny thing in this movie. I know that, but yeah. Anyway, so they made the right call there in terms of keeping him around, because, like I say, of all the Avengers, he's the one that should stick around because he's had the least really done with any of them, and he has the most latitude to go. But in any case, so they did that. So those time travel bits were like meh. Some of them were good, some of them bad. Now the best one was, I liked when they started bringing Thanos back into it. That was where it was good. I was like, right, he's come back in. He's smart enough to figure out the different timelines and stuff like that. The thing with Nebula, bringing Gamora back in, I love that because I love the dynamic between Gamora and Nebula. Nebula was one of the best things about the film. I've not talked about her much so far, but I really think over the movies she's just got better and better. She improved a lot in Guardians 2, and again, she's another character that started off as a very flat villain, and now we really, really root for her because we really understand as a villain. She has had good motivations to being like that. The horrible thing she's been through, you're like, yeah, I'd be like her as well. I'd be pissed at my sister if all this happened to me. And the resolution between her and Gamora, it's kind of a shame that they kind of, because of what happened to Gamora, had to sort of backtrack on that now. And Gamora was kind of back to not liking him, but then they sort of, even with that, they kind of managed to make it to Gamora in the end. The new Gamora was sort of won over a bit. So yeah, that was pretty good. I love the Guardians, and Guardians is the next big thing I'm looking forward to after this. So yeah, that was good. And again, once they started to bring Thanos back into it properly, I was like, right, okay, this is now. I was starting to see where they were going and starting to understand, right, okay, this is getting better, it's getting better. And then we hit, the last hour. And I will say, as much as it sounds like I've really disliked this film so far, like I say, I didn't dislike all of it. Some of it was good, some of it was bad. This last hour was all good, man. It was exactly what I wanted. It was like, and it just got better and got better and got better and got better. In terms of scenes and in terms of, if we're going to break movies down to scenes and acts and things like that, this is definitely the best third act. I would agree with this is one of the best third acts in a film ever. I would agree with that. As an overall film, no, because of all the things I've talked about, but for a third act resolution, for a third act big battle that we get in almost every movie nowadays is a big battle at the end, or some kind of a battle at the end, this was up there with like the very best, like Return of the King and other things like that. I just think they did such a good job with it. So many callbacks. I'm going to have to go and break it down bit by bit. Again, so much stuff in there that I loved. Only one thing that I was just like groaning at, which I'll talk about, but really, in the grand scheme, it was a minor thing. So we had Thanos back, which was great. The threat level came back into it. Okay, so I'm trying to think of all the things that happened because it was just insane once, and again, the way that it built up was brilliant. And this is obviously what they've been saving all the screen time for, and it's good that the last hour or so was this. Because this is what I wanted all the way through. For me, I was like, right, this is the movie I wanted. This is the end game, literally. We are in the end, when Doctor Strange says we're in the end game now, I was like, this is it. This is what he was on about. This is the end game. Okay, bit by bit, let's take it. Fight with Captain America versus Thanos, great. I loved how... I know some people have complained and been like, oh, Thanos was so overpowered. I'm like, no, he needed to be this tough. He absolutely needed to be this tough at the end. I really was... This is what I was worried about at the start. I really didn't want him to just get one-shotted by Captain Marvel or one-shotted by anybody. I was like, he should still be, even without the Infinity Gauntlet. Like, if you saw him at the start, he kicked the crap out of the Hulk. He beat the shit out of the Hulk in that armour. He did not have... I mean, he had one of the Power Stones. He didn't even use it. This is what made him so threatening. You were like, shit, this guy can beat the shit out of the Hulk, the most powerful character in the universe, without using a stone. What is he going to do once he has the Infinity Stones? So, I don't agree. I think absolutely he was the right power level. Some people have been complaining he was too overpowered. He wasn't. He was... I mean, he was weaker when they fought him at the start because he destroyed all the stones. You could see his face was effed up. So, yeah, I get how weak he was then. That made sense. Like I say, it made sense for them to beat him that easily. It just didn't make sense the way they played the moment. But this made sense in every way that it should have done. Because, yeah, he should be badass. You don't want him, like, one-shotted by Captain Marvel, one-shotted by anyone. You still want him to be threatening, to be difficult to fight, for them to literally chuck everything at him and still not nearly beat him. And that is exactly what they did. It was really good. Like, even with all the heroes, like, they didn't easily beat him. Again, this is the one part of the movie where I was saying, like, they win all the time. They did win eventually, but there was some bits here where they didn't straight away win. It wasn't like, yeah, let's all get together and fight him, and straight away they destroyed him. Immediately, everyone's getting their asses handed to him. Cap takes him on, gets beaten down, gets his shield knocked off. Cap getting the hammer was brilliant. That's a great callback to Age of Ultron. And that was excellent. Him, like, beating the crap out of Thanos, trying to beat him down, still not doing it with the hammer. But a great moment, because what we love about Cap is not... Because 9 times out of 10, he does get his ass handed to him. You very rarely see him actually. This is why I like him so much. He wins in the fight against Tony in Civil War. That's probably one of the only times he wins a fight. Like, mostly he's getting beaten down. Like, he gets beaten down by Red Skull. He kind of doesn't really win that fight. That just gets that Red Skull fight in the first Captain America movie is so pants. But, like, he gets... Again, his thing is like... And they made a joke out of it here where he's like, I can do this all day. That's what makes him a hero. It's a bit like what Rocky says. He's like, it's not how hard you get hit. It's about, getting back up and fighting. And that's what makes you a hero. That is what makes him the hero, because he is just always going to get back up. And he's always going to fight and fight and fight to the death. And this has kind of been the fundamental difference in him and Tony Stark. Is Tony Stark has always gone, well, I do want to help people, but I also want to be able to live my life. I want to be able to help them and then step away and live my life. He's a bit more like what Batman's like in the Dark Knight trilogy. Yeah, he wants to help people, but he doesn't want to do it forever. He wants to do it, and at a certain point, he wants to be stepping away from it and going, let's retire and let's leave it to other people, or let's hand it over. Whereas Cap is like... He's dedicated his life to sacrificing. Since he came out of the ice, he's had to make that sacrifice. He's exemplifying a bit more of what Aunt May's talking about in Spider-Man 2, the hero that sacrifices his own happiness and his own dreams for the greater good. And that's what a true hero is. So Cap, for me, is always that true hero in that sense, because he sacrificed everything and put everything on the line so he could fight people. And And the thing between him and Tony, this is what's been the underlying difference of both of them, is they both agree with helping people, but Tony agrees with like doing it in a way that is not putting yourself in danger, or if he absolutely has to, he does. He's still a hero at the end of the day, but he wants to. He has that conflict. Cap's already resigned himself to the fact that his life is being Captain America. His life as Steve Rogers is completely over. And again, even in Age of Ultron, he sort of arrives at a conclusion where he's like, I'm fine here. This is my home. This is where I belong. I'm the leader of the Avengers. Again, that home gets completely destroyed in this end scene, which was great. It's like the mansion scene in Iron Man 3 times a billion, where it's just the Avengers base gets completely effed up. Great. Bit bizarre how they all survived, of course, but whatever. I'm going to overlook that. But yeah, it's absolutely right that he is just going to fight to the death at this point, because one of the things is he doesn't have anything to lose. He is resigned himself to the fact that this is who he is and that this is the most important thing. Like, and he never gives up. Like, when he's getting beaten down in Infinity War, like, Thanos is we know he's easily going to own him. He's there just like trying to hold back even we saw that in the trailer, him trying to hold back Thanos' hand, and he's just like, he knows that Thanos is going to destroy him, but he's just going to keep going. He's just going to keep fighting. He's never going to stop, and that's what he is. He could do, his line of "he can do this all day." That's him in a nutshell. He is never ever going to stop until he dies. So he's got that true hero. But this is why one of the best moments comes in a little bit, which I'll talk about very, very soon. So he gets beaten down. His new shield he got off Cap. I forgot to talk about that. That was a nice callback where he gave him a new shield. Finally resolving their conflict. Finally, the two of them trusting each other again. That was a great moment. Again, that happened somewhere in the middle act. I forgot to talk about it. But that was a really, really good payoff for them finally being friends again, learning to trust each other one last time, and it's like we say, it's never over till a fat lady sings. They've been through all this crap, but this is really where it counts. This is actually the end, and it was great for them to be friends again, see them become friends, see them work with each other again, and actually work with each other in a way that we've never seen them work like this before, because previously, yeah, they have been friends, but they were always kind of sniping each other. Even in Avengers, they work together to fix things, but when the fight's not there, there's still this conflict between the two men, between the two of them, of like who they think the other one is and who they think the other one should be. Like, Tony's always like taking a piss out of Steve for being naive, and Steve taking the piss out of Tony for being too cynical and too selfish and too like flippant about things. So even though they tried to build up, they have this really good friendship in Civil War, which I didn't really buy that much, to be honest. They did have a friendship of sorts, but it wasn't a really deep friendship. It was like a friendship where, yeah, we're basically bitching each other most of the time, and we do get on now and again, but most of the time we're disagreeing. They didn't really get on. Here it was like they really solidified it, so they were properly brothers in arms, they properly had each other's back, and I like that. I really like that. So when we get to like the scene where I'm talking about, and again, a callback again maybe to Age of Ultron with the cracked shield, with Tony's vision. So you're like, that's coming true. Like, his vision is really coming true. Even with all this stuff having been corrected, it's still not happening. And then you get the great callback to Winter Soldier, which I loved, where you hear Falcon say, "On your left." On your left is, again, if you're a nerd like me and you love Winter Soldier, which I did, you got that, and you're like, that is cool. I was massively big smile on my face when I heard that. Call back to the beginning of Winter Soldier, which was fantastic. And then you see all these portals opening up, and this was the moment. This was like the moment it was you were waiting for. This was what you wanted to see. This made the whole film great, And even though I said the first two acts had problems, they do. It's not a perfect film, no. But this, as I said, this third act was amazing, and this was what gives you the chills. That was like those, that chills in the back of your neck. All the characters coming back. Spider-Man back. Black Panther comes back. Obviously, Doctor Strange back. Everybody from the Marvel films was back. And I just was like, yes, at this point I was like, this is insanely good. This is really good. It can't get any better. And it kept getting better. So then we have all this stuff of like, everyone fighting. Like, Thanos has got all the flipping, and even before they all came back, all Thanos' like whale things that we saw in, Avengers, but like 50 times more of them, which is what we want. We want that. This is the time where you really chuck everything at it. It's like, yeah, we want like a million star whales and whatever else we got to chuck into it. All this thing about CGI overload, I'm like, F that. This is what we want. We want a huge flipping load of crap, load of stuff flying at him, and just to go even more. Yeah, okay. So you think these heroes are back? They still can't beat him, and then all the other heroes came back. Great to see them all back, and especially like one thing again I quickly breezed over that I should have spent more time on was I loved the scene with Tony looking at the photo of Peter. That was another amazing scene because it really anchored this thing of how much he cared about the kid. And that is the reason, I think that's the real reason he helped them. Even though he cared about other people, it was really how he felt about what happened with him at the end of Infinity War. And that was, again, a great, great, great moment. One of the good moments out of the ones that I was iffy about. But I like that callback because I think most people will never forget that scene in Infinity War with Peter Parker. Like, that was just beyond upsetting. To have him hold the kid and be like, this kid who he'd promised he would look after, and he's tried his best to be a better man than his father had been, and he kind of felt like he'd failed at it. He kind of felt like he'd failed at it because he'd failed to keep him alive. Despite his best efforts, despite everything he tried to do, he had let the kid down. And you feel really bad for him because there was nothing he could do. Like, he really tried his best. You didn't feel like... There were some times with Tony where I was like, well... He just did this and could have done something else. Like with Age of Ultron, he has some stupid things that he does, and he just reacts to it and is like, "Oh, I created Ultron, whoopsie." Doesn't bother about the impact it has on people. Here, you felt like he really, really felt so bad about it. And again, I just would have preferred a bit more of a callback to that at the start. Like, I think a callback to that, him looking at the photo of Peter even at the start, or some callback to what happened there, would have been better than just a stupid comedy moment. But anyway, we're past that. But it was great to see Spider-Man back for this reason. It was great to see him back and like chatting with Iron Man, and like he's great. Tom Holland's great as Spider-Man, and he's been great in these Infinity War movies. And again, Doctor Strange back was fantastic. I love him. I love Benedict Cumberbatch. He's even though I was not a huge fan of his solo film, he's improved a lot. Like, he was a lot better in Infinity War. He's really, really good in this, and the sort of the wisdom he has. I like how they you really respect how wise he is. Like, one of the cool things about the scene with the Ancient One was that whoever she's talking to, I think it's Bruce Banner, he's saying like, I need the Time Stone, and she's saying, oh, you can't take it because of all this stuff, and all it takes is for him to say, this is what Stephen Strange wanted. Stephen Strange gave Thanos the Time Stone, and she immediately, very, very quickly, and in a believable way, flips and goes, yep, you can have it. Because she trusts that if Stephen Strange has done that, and he's made that call, then he knows. He's the one who's like, she knows that in the future he's going to be the Sorcerer Supreme, he's going to be the most powerful, wise character that we have in this universe, despite his arrogance. She knows it's the right call if he said it. So she's like, yep, have it. That was really cool. And again, we got that feeling here in a very important scene I'm going to talk about in a minute, that everyone sort of knows. He knows. He's the only one who knows how to be. He's the only one who knows that this was the one way that it had to go. And I think if there's anything missing, a little bit of acknowledgement, that would have been nice, but I get that you've got so many other things to close out. And the priority here was closing out the story of the original characters, absolutely. I didn't want that to be taken away by the newer characters, really. So yeah, you get to see Black Panther kicking ass. One bit I will say it was a bit cringeworthy was... in fact, the way they brought Captain Marvel in was good. They actually used her well here. She came in blasting, did a bit of ass kicking, which is fine. Got her ass kicked by Thanos, which was really good. I didn't want her to come. Like, everyone was worried about a one shot, and she didn't. Thanos got Power Stone, smacked her down, knocked her out. That was really, really good. What wasn't so good is the whole scene of like all the female heroes fighting together. Again, the best female hero wasn't there. She was already dead by this point, which was just annoying for me. But it, like I say, given how they did it, it made sense when they did it. But it would have been nice, another reason why Black Widow's been screwed over more than anyone else. Like, she is even robbed of like the feminism moment. She's not there when she was the first really cool female character we've had in the MCU. We have all these other ones, Valkyrie is cool, admittedly. Gamora is cool. Like, the weird thing is, I really, really love all the female characters. apart from Captain Marvel. I think they're all excellent, actually. Like, Gamora's great. Nebula, as I said, is one of my favourites. Black Widow was, for what they gave her, was always really good. I always really liked her. I'm not sexist at all. I really think that they're some of the best characters and better characters. And if we start to have more of them as a main focus, like if Gamora is a bigger focus of Guardians, I think that's great. I don't think that it shouldn't, it shouldn't necessarily, it should dictate how good the character is, not the sex of the character. But like Captain Marvel, like I still think it's just a shame that of all the ones that they chose to do solo movies, she's the worst. She's so poor. She's so bland and characterless. Like, she doesn't have any character. But yeah, anyway, enough bashing Captain Marvel. That shot was a little bit on the nose. It was a little bit like, oh, okay, yeah. Ugh. But it was a quick shot. I'm not going to bitch about it too much. It was just a quick shot. And I know why, I mean, I'm sure there were girls out there who, I mean, I've got a little girl growing up. I'm sure she was old enough to watch this. I would feel slightly differently because she would see that scene and see these women, like, kicking ass, which is what, that's what we want. We want to see women kicking ass. And be good characters and be in these movies, definitely more and more. So yeah, I'm sure if Amelia was 10 years older and she was watching this as like a 13-year-old, I would probably think that was a really cool scene because she would have loved it. But as it is, for me, it was a little bit of an eye roll. Okay, whatever. Not a huge deal breaker. But then, the last thing we've got to talk about, well, in terms of this battle, I've still got more to talk about. Geez, been on for ages. This was the other bit that really is the best moment. And again, I'm talking about moments, not entire films. But the best moment in any Marvel film was this bit I'm going to talk about now. Where Thanos is fighting Iron Man. Iron Man's back. Iron Man has... And I've already established, and I sort of grasped over this, that like the only one powerful enough to do the snap is like someone like who's like the power level of Hulk. That was where they used him quite well. I thought he got used very well there. So he put the gauntlet on because if anyone else did it, he was just going to kill them. So him being the Hulk there was really, really good. Again, they sort of ruined him a bit. Just played him for too much comedy, but also I keep forgetting all these bits. There's so much in this film. One of the comedy moments I thought was hilarious and was really good, again, involving Ant-Man earlier on with the time travel stuff, was where they were testing it out and he kept coming back as different ages. That was funny. That was a really funny scene. I like that. So yeah, like I was saying, I don't want you to show that I'm completely against all this Marvel comedy. Some of the time the comedy is really funny. And like I say, with Paul Rudd, he plays it off really well. That was a scene I really thought was funny and I liked and that worked, but some of the other stuff, not so much. But anyway, going back, that was just a thing I forgot to talk about. There's so much to talk about in this movie, it's difficult to remember all the bits. So, yeah, but anyway, to flip all the way back to the end of the movie, my favourite, the best bit in any Marvel film, because it was several things at once. It was a character-defining moment, it was a character-ending moment, it was a culmination of the end of his film, the last few movies. This bit was just great with Captain America, and I said, bear in mind, I already just said that Captain America is the true hero because he doesn't sacrifice himself. This was the best moment for Iron Man, for Tony Stark, we've ever seen him have. Because again, as I said previously, he's always been the character who has wanted to have a life, has wanted to put away being a superhero, has wanted to save people, but has also wanted to have his own life. And here he chose, which is the best hero moment in these movies, to sacrifice himself because he knew this was the only way. And even though I'm sort of contradicting myself because earlier on I was talking about destiny and when people do bad things because there's no other way. But this was like a different kind of a no other way. This was like he looked across at Doctor Strange, and again, this moment was brilliant because there was no protracted bit of dialogue where they explained it. There was no overbearing musical score where he were like 5 minutes of slow motion of him doing it and all the characters looking at me like, no. It wasn't like that. It was brilliantly paced. This was an amazingly intelligent scene. And again, more for how it was directed than how it was written, if I'm honest. Hats off to the Russos this bit, because this solved, this did away with a lot of my like little issues. He looks across at Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange just did this, And if anyone was paying attention, we all knew what that meant. Oh, one like that. One chance. And I think earlier on we did have a bit of a dialogue where Tony said something to Doctor Strange in the manner of like, is this the one chance or something? And he's like, you'll know or something. I can't remember. There was a little bit of a setup. I've gone and watched it once, so I can't remember it word for word. But this was what was cool, was he looked across at Doctor Strange and he knew that this is what he had to do. There was no other way. No other way to win. And he had obviously you see the great reveal in its own where Thanos does the snap and the gems are gone and he's like, what? Because you're like, oh no, he's not going to do the snap again. And then you look across at Tony. Tony has the gems and the Infinity Gauntlet. Looks across at Doctor Strange. Then I am Iron Man. Snap the fingers. If there was ever a mic drop moment, like in terms of single mic drop moments, or like emotional moments, or hero moments, or like, there's nothing that's better than that. That is up there with the very, very best of all of those moments we've ever seen. You know, the reasons we go to watch movies. These moments, the reasons we watch movies, is to feel like that and to have that experience and to feel like, wow, flipping heck, that is really, really epic. And it, obviously, he did the snap, sacrificing himself as we knew was going to happen. And I'm so glad Marvel didn't cop out on this, because they always do it with characters where they kill a character and they're like, oh, but they're not really dead. They kill a character and they're like, oh, they're not really dead. And I was like, please stick the landing here. Please don't invent some stupid reason why, oh, actually, he did something to the gauntlet which meant that he could still survive when he killed the snap. That's normally what they would do. I'll be honest, like 99% of the time that's what they do with a killer character off. They do some stupid thing where they're like, oh, well, they're not really gone. And you know, if you think about it and you think about what this film's done with time travel and other timelines, yeah, there are still ways. If they wanted to bring Downey Jr. back, they could bring him back from another timeline or whatever. But really, this was really, really good that they killed him off in that way. With those lines, that summed up perfectly. Because Tony Stark has always had this issue of, is he Iron Man, is he Tony Stark? And him and the suit are one and the same, or are they not? For me, this almost brought it back to the start, because we separated the two off. We said, you know, he doesn't need the suit to be Iron Man. For me, this was more like, no, the two are back together again, because in that moment he is being Tony Stark, because he is saving the kid. He's saving everybody, but you know, the kid and all his family and everyone else who he's fighting for. He's saving the universe and he's saving his family. Like, he's doing the two things. As Tony Stark and Iron Man, the two are the same, and he makes that choice. And that is a brilliant full circle character arc. Like, just like what we got with Dark Knight Rises, or that was within 3 movies, where he goes back to needing the Thea. He ends up back where we started, to needing the Thea to be, Bane. We're back where we started with Tony. He's back to being Iron Man. I am Iron Man. He does it brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And that, like I say, I love that moment. That's always going to stick with me forever. So overall, this third act really rescued the film, and I came out of it smiling. I came out of it happy. And I can understand the massive hyperbole in the reviews of some people saying this is the best film ever made, the best superhero film, because this last hour was some of the best superhero stuff I've ever seen. So yeah, that was really good. How they ended up the characters. You know, how they then concluded Cap's story was really, really good, because they flipped the script on it. So, whereas Tony didn't get the life to lead, but he'd had that 5 years to live it. That's the thing, he had actually had the 5 years to live it. So when he sort of killed himself at the end, and Pepper was there, absolutely important that she was there. Really good moment that was played. The funeral bit, obviously really sad. I'm sure loads of people were in tears at that. That was a really good, nice send-off to sort of the 10 years of the MCU, with a slow pan for all the characters there that were left alive because of him. You know, they were all alive because of what he'd done. And the end scene, monologue into the suit with the helmet, was perfect as well, because again, that did tie up nice with the start. So really, a lot of my issues with it, I think, will be rectified on a rewatch, because understanding the whole scope of the movie, it's a lot easier to kind of put those things in context and say, okay, it was important there because it paid off here. But the thing of him to talk about what it is to be a hero, and part of being a hero is the ending, things ending. It's really, really good. It's a really good life lesson for any kids watching as well, because, you know, ending and death and that stuff, so many of the times we try and avoid it, and they're trying to do things in these movies where they've tried to kind of, that's why they fake death so many times and go, yeah, he's come back alive. I think it was right to kind of have a thing, yeah, part of it is part of the journey, part of all our lives is the ending. We're all going to live, we're all going to die, and this is part of life. So, absolutely right, they ended it like that. And again, it was a beautiful final shot with Steve and Peggy dancing. I think having him time travel back with all the Infinity Stones and stay in the past. Again, I called it. I basically said that's what he's going to do. I've always said for a long time, he's going to end up back in the past. He's going to end up in the 1940s. Once we got into this thing with Endgame where there was rumours it was going to be time travel, I was like, absolutely, he's going to have a dance with Peggy. He's going to be back in there because he needed to be back there. That's exactly where his story needed to end, because ever since First Avenger, where he was into the present and he was 70 years earlier and he was like, I had a date, I was always like, are we not going to do anything with this? We're not going to revisit it? We're not going to address the fact that they did address it in Winter Soldier finally, but they never really went back to there with it. And I was like, he's left his whole life behind. Like, what's he going to do? And then they did a really good job of it as it went. So I was like, oh, this is cool. It was perfect that he went back. Anyone who's like, oh, well, it messed up the timeline and he went back and it's going to change, it's like, whatever, you know, you're always going to have people who moan about things. Like, I've moaned a lot about this as well already. But, like, that was the perfect ending for his character, you know, really it was. Very much similar to what happened with Batman in Batman Dark Knight Rises. I'm like, that's how they should have ended it, and they shouldn't bring him back as Batman or anything. He needed that ending, and this is the ending that, you know. So he'd been the hero, he'd had his life of heroism, but he got to experience the life that Tony had always talked about, the family life, the life of a simple man that he'd given up and thought he would never ever have. He basically got to do that, and then handed the shield over to Falcon rather than Bucky, which is a little bit weird. Again, maybe if there is a character that's been screwed over more than Black Widow, it's definitely Bucky. He's been screwed over way more. And I'm sure Sebastian Stan's a bit pissed that he signed a 9-film deal back with like Marvel for your first Avenger, and he's just been consistently shat on the whole time. Even more so than Black Widow, maybe. I don't know. It's pretty much even, you know. Thank God for Winter Soldier, you know, because if it wasn't for that, neither of them would have had anything decent to work with. But it also just seemed weird that Falcon got it. Like, I don't mind Falcon. I think Falcon's great. But considering Bucky's arc, considering the story he's had, where he started, he's been Steve's best friend since the first one, and he's had his own really good character arc in and around places as much as he could have, even though he got cut and minimised a lot in this Infinite. You know, like I say, he's been screwed over badly, because he actually did have a good story there that I wanted to see, and we just never really saw it. We sort of saw bits of it, and then it just got forgotten about. He made more sense to him to have it. Doesn't it make more sense for him to have a shield? Like, wasn't that some weird foreshadowing moment where we saw Steve throw the shield and Bucky catch it? Wouldn't that have been a better way to, you know, I'm still fairly happy that it ended up being Falcon. Don't get me wrong. I'm not one of these people who's like, oh, diversity is because of diversity. No, there's good reasons why Falcon should have it, but it would have made more sense for Bucky to get it. Like, absolutely, to me, that was the one little minor thing. But it's a minor quibble, because Falcon still had his back. He's still been his friend. You know, it's not like he's just handed it over to. It's not like the Sheila Buff thing at the end of Indiana Jones, where you just face palm and go, oh no, don't give us Sheila Buff. Like, Anthony Mackie's a great actor. I think he's you know, he's been underserved. I think of everybody, the one who's had the worst deal is probably poor Don Cheadle, when I think about it. Don Cheadle's War Machine. But anyway, we won't go there with War Machine. But, and I think, you know, in terms of Iron Man, I think they're just going to phase out Iron Man as a series of movies like they already have. Like, there'll probably be some iteration of Iron Man in the future. Maybe it'll be Pepper. Maybe it's someone recast as Pepper, because I can't see Gwyneth Paltrow coming back for any more movies. But, again, the future of Iron Man's sort of unclear. I think they're trying to make Captain Marvel the new Iron Man. In general, that's what they're trying to do, which is a huge thing I'm very worried about, but whatever. In terms of resolution, this was really good. In terms of what Steve got, and I don't know if they had a new actor, or it was like Chris Evans in really good makeup. I don't know, but it was a good scene. It was a nice scene where he handed over the shield, even though, like I say, I would rather have seen it gone to Bucky, but maybe like Falcon will give it to Bucky eventually. Because I also think, as good as Anthony Mackie is, I think really that Sebastian Stan's a stronger pick for a long haul series of movies as well. Like the fight against stuff. Again, I don't know how much of fighting he actually did. It was probably stuntable, but like he just seemed like he has more untapped potential than Anthony Mackie has. But we'll find out in about 5 years when we do another film of it, whatever they'll do. But yeah, in general, it was nice. This film started with a character moment, ended with a character moment, them having the dance, and they ended up when the credits were all going. That was great. That was my takeaway, and my initial issues as the film got on were completely done away with by the end, and I was able to come out and go, that was great. That's what I literally said. I said that was great. That was really, really really good. Now, I still don't think it's the best film of all time. 9 out of 10, like I said. I can also completely understand people who love it more than I do and think it's a 10 out of 10 and think it's a masterpiece. And great. I don't think it's bad. I think it's lovely if people saw this, and for them it's going to be up there. For me, it's probably still shy of certain movies that are my all-time favourites. And I don't really know, because I've seen it once and it was a week ago. It's going to take a lot more watchings to really understand how much of a favourite this is. It may go up. I may love it more, having forgiven it some of those things. I may love it slightly less. I really don't know. Infinity War, I can definitely say now, having seen it at least 5 or 6 times, it's never gone up or down. It has stayed as, to me, the best Marvel film, and I think it still is. But I doubt this is going to surpass that, but it may end up on the same level. Who knows? Right now, it's an Empire and Jedi thing for me, and that's not saying I don't like it. But it's also not saying I unequivocally loved it. Just like a lot of times I find myself sort of slightly in the middle of where the two polar opposites of certain fans who hated it and have really bashed it for things that is not a big deal, and certain fans who love it and completely ignore all those issues, or they weren't issues and they just think the film is like unbelievable masterpiece. So, I'm somewhere in between those. But I'm definitely on the upper end of the people who like it. I'm definitely on the end of saying it's good, hence why it's a 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 is not a bad score at the end of the day. If I give anything a 9 out of 10, that means it was good. So, my waffling done. My very, very long 3-hour video done. I bet nobody sits and watches all of this, but if you did, all power to you for sitting through 3 hours of me ranting and talking about it. I will see you with another review at some point.